gonna teach you guys how to do a color grade on a scene. Basically, this is a scene for close-ups, and this is obviously with a Caucasian skin tone and maybe like a darker blue eye and a darker hair color. So the first thing that we're gonna do, and you have to forgive me because Premiere's an editing software that I'm just learning now. So the first thing that I've learned is that we're gonna go to color correction here, and we're gonna drop in the lumetri color. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. And we'll be shown all of this dialogue here below, the actual effect. And for the most part, people love to come in here. I do, and it's fun because you can see like replicas of different film stocks. And actually, we're gonna try to modify and make our own, and we're gonna also use some different looks too. Just to start off, actually, the scene looks like this pretty basically. You know, it's all naturally lit. There isn't any like light source besides like the windows that we have here. And this was the final effect that we did do, that I actually came up with. And it's a little darker. There is some grain that's kind of pushed into it as well. And it's a little bit more crunchy, and that's something that I liked it. So I'm gonna try to show you guys how I did this. So this is the raw, and then this is the graded footage. So basically, I'm just gonna come in and go over some of the things that I've changed. And I just played around, which I urge you to definitely do. There's a look that I found online, and this is a free LUT, and you can find them just by Googling free LUTs for, you know, Adobe Premiere. I'll put a link in the description of where I found these at, because I don't remember. But this is a Fuji 3513 log 2 HD CUSP clip, and I'm assuming this just is basically the range of colors that it's, you know, kind of really throwing into it. So I have that. I've actually went into custom, and I've put this one on the clip. The intensity is set to 67. You can definitely see how it looks with actually no intensity, as opposed to when we crunch it up a bit. You can see that the black is getting a little bit blacker, and you know, we're just kind of working it to that point. Then you'll come down and you'll see that I've have the faded film, which kind of, you know, boost up the shadows, but in a really nice way. We have that set to 62.7. And again, you can just definitely play with this. Vibrance, I have that pushed up a bit so we can really see the color of his eyes come in. And this is half resolution. We can do full, and I'll bring it up to like 50 so we can actually see it a little bit more. I have that vibrance kind of pushed up because I want that color. I want that, you know, crispy look. And just on a color wheel, just some simple color theory to kind of keep in mind is, you know, orange is always opposite of blue, red is opposite of green. I don't know so much, but those four are really important. So you'll notice that we have like orange highlights, but the blue in his eyes is really kind of popping. And you know, it's kind of playing off of the orange and the blue, and that kind of leads us to the next thing, which is the shadow and the tint. I would always recommend that if you're going to color grade something, to play around with those theories of red being the opposite of green, orange being the opposite of blue. You'll see here that I have such like an orange tint right here for the highlights. That kind of gives the skin a little more like redness. Shadow, I have a little bit blue here to kind of play opposite of the orange that we're seeing. And then you play with the tint balance, which basically kind of associates if you want like a cooler tone. I know just for the story that we're doing that this would be rather dramatic and serious to have it like this. It would be maybe a little more appropriate if we were in a clinical scene, or if this was a little more, you know, darker scene, and it really isn't. Down here, the curves, I actually pulled the white curve all the way down a bit, and I've done this because of course when you're shooting digitally, you have the you know, the problem of sometimes having the highlights blown out in the back. I want you guys to kind of see, you can have that to be the case, and you kind of tone down those white highlights when you bring down the color curve here. So that's that. And then also too, back up at the top right above the creative little link here, you'll see that we have basic correction. And basic correction, I always do creative first for some reason, and then I come in and do the basic. Basically what that is, I don't know why it's not showing everything, but here it is. sorry, like I said, I'm just learning. I've took down the whites quite a bit, and when you boost up the whites, like I said, you can see everything's a little more blown out. Maybe if this was like a flashback scene or something like that, that would work, but it isn't. It's just normal dialogue, so I've toned down the white a bit. The black, when you do that, basically what that does is, you see how it gets a little more shadowy in the chair part of it. I don't want that vintage look. I might actually work with it a little bit later, but for right now I'm gonna leave it a little bit crispy and contrasty. Highlights, again, I'm saying this is because you want the light in the eyes, but you don't want all the white in the background. It just makes it look cheap. I take down the exposure a bit, and I boosted up the contrast to really get those crispy colors. I've actually taken the temperature up a little bit in consideration that he is sitting by a window, and the other scene that I have pushing forward, you can kind of see that there is sunlight coming through, so I wanted a little bit of yellow tossed on. With that yellow, I wanted to play with a little bit of reds with the tint. Obviously, green is to the left of the spectrum, and red is a little bit to the right of it. So I just kind of boosted that in, so we get the red on his lips, we get the red in the shadows on his face, and you can kind of see what's going on there. From this point, that is pretty much it.